Hi, everybody, and welcome to the third session of this short course titled Creating Content for TikTok. As you can tell immediately, this session is a little bit different because we're actually joined online by Holly from the Leeds office of the MediaWorks team. Now, in this session, what we're going to be doing is discussing creating content for TikTok really quite hands-on. So in session one with Anna, we discussed TikTok itself as a platform, the importance of understanding our audience, etc. In session two with Alfie, we spoke all about the paid side of TikTok and we explored the opportunities available to us when it comes to targeting those audiences. Now what we're going to do is focus on the content itself. So what do those assets look like? How can we be creative? How do we use various types of hardware and software to actually create that content ready to push out to our audiences? Holly, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do at MediaWorks?
Hi, yeah, I'm Holly and I'm a social media executive in Leeds. So we look at various different brands under the Kenvue umbrella and we're looking at engagement, what kind of posts are getting put out in the future for different platforms, including TikTok, which is what we're specialising in today. So yeah, that's a bit about what I do.
Absolutely. So I guess the kind of main reason for this session then, Holly, is we've already understood the role of TikTok
Yeah.
with the session that we had with Anna, and then we've explored opportunities for paid as well in our session with Alfie. So in those sessions, we
Mhm.
touched on organic and paid strategy, and we also spoke a little bit about the different types of content as well. But what
Yeah.
I want to do in this session is a deeper dive into how do you actually create that content. Now, before we get into that, I'd really like just to get your opinion on this. Your opinion on how does TikTok differ as a social media platform compared to the others?
I think TikTok, it is very important for a lot of new brands to be jumping on as it gets your content out there to a wider audience. It can turn up on anyone's For You page. And engagement is highest, I would say, on TikTok. You can get a lot more likes rather than people following you on Instagram and Facebook, other platforms like that. So I think it's important for brands to jump on. And you can be expressive as well. It's very creative and a lot of brands show their own sides and their products. It doesn't actually have to be very heavily product focused. If you're doing it as a brand, I think you can show your expressive side and your personality to gain more followers that way.
I think it's a really good point and something that we've touched on previously as well in those sessions, this idea that with TikTok, it kind of takes away the need for brands to be really kind of corporate faced
Yeah.
and be really kind of like business led. It does give them the opportunity to be a little bit personable, to show the personality, and to really kind of tap into whatever the audiences are speaking about at that time. But
Yeah.
how do you strike that balance then? Because I feel like a lot of business owners, a lot of marketers, a lot of marketing departments have seen TikTok and have seen success from various brands on there, but they're a little bit reluctant themselves to put themselves out there because, with TikTok, it really is about that, not being very formal, if you like.
Yeah.
So how do you strike that balance then? What do you think are some of the considerations we need to be aware of?
I think taking into consideration probably your competitors, so what other brands are doing around you, that's a good thing to consider. I would say even focusing on what's trending at the moment, because obviously TikTok bases a lot on sounds, a lot on, what's popular in your area around, say you're doing a skincare brand, what kind of skincare's popular, what kind of things are people reporting on. So I would say that's what differs from other platforms. But to create TikToks as well as a brand, I would say it's not as rigid. It's not as, you know, scheduled, put in place. You can be a lot more free with it, which I think is good to do, like adapt from other platforms. So remembering your audience and making sure that your content aligns with that, and you'll be able to put it out on TikTok, which goes to, you know, potentially millions of people. I feel like that's the goal for brands. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to get your take on this, because it's a question that I asked Anna, it's a question that I asked Alfie, and just to get different people's perspectives on it. But do you think that every brand has a place on TikTok?
That is a good question. I would say whether they have a place is another question, but whether there should be, I would say yeah. I would say every brand should be on TikTok. Even ones that you wouldn't like think of straight away, like Ryanair, they had a whole trending phase, I would say back end of 2021. You think, why is an airline on TikTok? Like people aren't buying the flights off TikTok. But they got loads of growth and a lot more followers. And I say it makes the younger audience more aware of the brand because obviously it's more, I would say 16 to 25 is probably the age bracket of most people on TikTok. So it gets them aware. So if an older brand's thinking, how do I, get back into the younger audience? How do I promote my products to them? I would say TikTok is definitely the best platform right now. Whether in a few years it's going to be different. I mean, it only came about in 2018, so it's pretty new compared to Facebook and other platforms like that. But I would say if you want to start your brand or you want to grow your brand, then TikTok is definitely a good move.
Absolutely. So, right, I feel like this is when we really get to the crux of this session, which is we spoke about strategy, we spoke about understanding our audiences, and we've spoke about the paid aspect of TikTok as well, and all the opportunities which lie within using paid campaigns to really target our audiences.
Yeah.
But let's just say I've got no experience in TikTok. Like many of the learners on this short course, they'll be familiar with TikTok, maybe as a user, but they've never actually used it for their organization as a marketer. So if I'm creating content for the first time, where's the best place to start? So how do I even go about planning content for TikTok?
Yeah. So from the start of any sort of social media strategy, I would make a publishing plan. I think that's one thing to consider. You can list, what you want to communicate, what kind of product you want to launch or event, as well as talking specifically about your main focus in the publishing plan, making it clear, like I say, your target audience, even what style of content you want to make. Obviously, TikTok is heavily video, but you can do a carousel of photos on TikTok, which might be better for your brand. So it's just considering, what makes your content diverse and stuff like that. So I would say that's an important thing is a publishing plan to start off. And then remembering that you've got something to say. Not everyone is going to be for your brand. You need to find your audience and how we are going to relate what you want to say. You can think about getting creative as well. Like I said before, I think it's important to show your personality as a brand, your tone of voice, and what techniques you're going to use to grab attention, create thumb-stopping content, because a lot of TikTokers and brands who are on TikTok, the engagement, it needs to be in that first few seconds to be able to get people to interact and be responsive and stuff like that. So bear in mind trends, they can appear at any moment. Obviously, TikTok, every day there's a new trend. If you're an avid user, you'll be able to see, what kind of sounds people are using. So being reactive on that is probably a good start. Before you even start making content, just acknowledging what's out there already is definitely what to focus on when you're thinking of going onto TikTok.
So when you talk about putting a plan together for publishing, are you talking about having a schedule, having the calendar of the content that's going to go out there?
Yeah, I would say it's good to have a kind of time frame of how long you want to, say you're starting up a brand and you're going to have a launch, how long is the launch going to go on, or how often are you going to be posting? So is it going to be 2 times a week? Is it going to be once a day? How heavily do you want to go on the content publishing? So yeah, starting with the plan, just how much you want to do, what you're going to focus on, that kind of focus, I would say.
And do we have a rule of thumb in terms of, say, we do have a new product launch or there's a certain campaign we're trying to run now for a particular promotion? I mean, we'd imagine, yes, during those periods we'll ramp up the amount, the frequency of content that we're pumping out there as well. But would you say there's a rule of thumb to say, well, even if you don't have a new product launch or you're not running a particular promotion, Like, what
Mhm.
should we do? Just have a baseline presence on the platform then?
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you've got existing products, if you're looking at that kind of specific brand, focusing on that, what's popular, what are people using the most, looking at reviews and stuff like that. But even just hopping on trends, like I say, your content doesn't have to be heavily focused on what you sell. It can just be what the user wants to see. So interactive content, you can do, a lot of Q&As are quite popular right now from brands. So you're going up to people on the street, obviously nothing too crazy, but interviewing, asking questions, a lot of, face-to-face stuff. Obviously now we can. So I would say that's a good start. If you've, say you're just starting a brand, you don't have any existing products yet, getting your name out there and being reactive on trends and stuff, that's definitely a good start.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really interesting as well to think about kind of like ideation around
Yeah.
different types of content. And of course, we did touch on this with Anna as well. And there's so many tools out there as well to help us in the ideation process. But it's something that I saw very, very recently was I actually received a phone call of a business owner just a couple of days ago to say, I've got this massive presence on TikTok, it's a really successful platform for me, but I'm really struggling in terms of content. I just feel like I've done it all over the past 2-3
Yeah.
years. I'm really running out of ideas now. And something I suggested was, because you are able to do that as well on these platforms, is ask your audience what they'd like to see. You are able to do that. And of course, we've seen that across social. But for me, particularly with TikTok, I feel like an observation I've made is it doesn't seem out of place to respond directly to your audience and directly to users as well. It's very much part of the platform, isn't it?
Yeah, I would definitely say you see a lot of brands nowadays just even saying, what do you want to see from us next? That kind of question is important because at the end of the day, you are focusing your content towards your audience and the user and growing the platform. So what they want to see, yeah, is at utmost importance, definitely.
Yeah. Would you suggest as well, perhaps creating something like, content pillars as well? Like you said, you could have kind of content about your products, content about kind of the culture attached to your organization, and you could have content related to being reactive, Q&As, trends, etc. I mean, I think that's something which can work quite nicely. But again, where do you think that split sits? Do you think everything should be done quite evenly, or should it be more product focused and service focused? Should it be more so interacting with your audience? Where do you think it works on TikTok?
Yeah, I think for TikTok, it probably should be like an 80-20 balance of 20% product focus, 80% more what your audience wants and being reactive to trends and stuff like that, considering obviously audio, visuals. I think probably if you're starting up on TikTok as well, a misconception would be that you need high quality content the same as maybe Instagram or other platforms like that, or even advertising campaigns, which is the opposite. I feel like people like it when you're more organic and you're more natural and you're showing your brand's personality. So yeah, I'd say 80% should be quite raw, what your audience wants to see. And considering obviously if you want your brand to look professional, that's important. Looking at lighting and wardrobe and location and stuff like that. But I would say that's probably 20% of the side of what people actually want to see who are using TikTok.
It's a really, really interesting observation, and something that we spoke about with Anna as well. This idea of, for such a long time, everybody's been looking for like the perfect picture, the perfect video to post on their own socials. So it looks like amazing and really professionally done. Whereas now with TikTok, like you said, it's just the opposite of that now. And what people are looking for on that platform is something which is really authentic and raw, and it feels like it's just another person who's created that. And I think something else which was important to note as well is, if we know that users are engaging with that type of content, which is really kind of raw, looks organic, it's really authentic, then you need to be considerate of, if I now create content which is really polished, looks professional. I've used the best cameras and editing software, etc. Well, how's your user going to interact with that versus if they were served something which is actually a little bit lower budget and something which does look like you've just quickly produced it in the office when you had 10 minutes free. So in fact, it might be worth the investment to not invest too much time and effort and energy into something. And especially if you're new to TikTok, use that approach for the whole trial and error to see what works and what doesn't work. So it can be quite cost effective as a platform, I think, because you don't have to invest in maybe something like an Instagram as an example, where it's very much about the visual and having something which is quite compelling. With TikTok, like you said, they are looking for something that's authentic, but at the same time, getting that balance right, so it's something which is going to stop them in the scroll as well. So for me, it's just a really, really interesting TikTok to kind of understand the psychology behind it as well. But what I want to do now is deep dive into a couple of things you just mentioned there. So you mentioned kind of the visuals and the audio as well. So again, what do we need to be aware of, especially for those of us who perhaps are new to the platform?
Yeah, I would say visual is one of the most important factors in TikTok. It's what you're seeing straight away. That's what's wanting you to stop and watch that video. People want authenticity, they love to see faces, and you might be thinking, I'm only shooting on an iPhone, it's not going to be as professional or anything like that, but it's not going to hinder what your audience is viewing and stuff like that. But I'd say it all goes towards helping what you want to say with the visuals. So obviously taking into consideration lighting, location, wardrobe, stuff like that. But it doesn't mean that you can't, show what you want to show. So I would say visuals one of the most important things. But then, like you're saying with audio, it's the trending sounds is what differs TikToks, Instagram. I'd say Instagram have only just kind of hopped on the audio with having you can have a still photo with audio over the top of it. So they're kind of trying to jump on the trend, but obviously TikTok are most famous for it. You can create your own sound, which I think is an important thing. Maybe if you're creating your own sounds, then people will start creating trends from that, which then obviously is going to grow your brand. There's loads of sounds and songs already inside of TikTok, which, you can see on your For You page what's trending and stuff like that. But you need to be mindful that big brands, like say if you're a big brand that's moving on to TikTok, advertising campaigns can be tricky in terms of legal with copyright and stuff like that. Like I know as a TikTok user myself, you can get your video audio taken down if it's not, approved in your country or anything like that. So when you're a brand, I would say that's a situation to be mindful of if you wanted to use trending audios. I know that a lot of brands that I work on here at MediaWorks, they want to kind of stay in trend, but you can't be using the exact audio because obviously they're on the copyright situation. But making your own, obviously that opportunity is always there for it then to become a trend.
And what about some of the features on TikTok as well then? Because I'm not a massive user of TikTok, admittedly. It's something also I explore simply, for the purposes of my career working within digital marketing, something I need to be aware of. But what you'll see on TikTok is something which I've seen bleed over into other platforms as well, or like the voiceover features where it'll read the text for you. Captions as well. I feel as though it became like really, really popular since TikTok got introduced. Like you said, trending sounds as well. And filters as well, like use of green screen and responding to content which is already on TikTok. So again, do you feel like all those play an important role, or is it something that we don't really need to think about too much?
I would say for the 80%, generated content, which is more directed to your audience, less product, those things are definitely important to consider. I would say, like you said, the voiceover, that's really popular at the moment. You can do the different sounds. That's what gets people watching. They want to hear the funny audios, they want to watch the funny filters and stuff like that. And I think it all starts with TikTok as well, considering, you know, they've got Instagram have the Reels now, which is obviously video content that you can have on feed. But a lot of them videos are normally pasted over from TikTok with the voiceovers and with the filters and the style of editing. So I would definitely say they are all important things to consider if you're wanting to, you know, consider what kind of interactive content you want to focus on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, what we'll find is on TikTok, it's really about grabbing the user's attention, but also retaining that attention as well to get your message across. Because, you know, the character limit on TikTok is quite small. What are your thoughts on the use of hashtags then, and how do hashtags actually work on TikTok?
I would say my personal use for hashtags are that they definitely are needed on TikTok. I use them myself, you know, if I'm searching for a specific kind of thing or topic or anything like that. I would say they do, I would say have a limit on TikTok though. You don't want to be spamming out the caption with loads of like hashtags, because then it just kind of makes your video show up on audiences that aren't really relevant, that, you know, your content, it's not going to be based for them, it's not going to be what they're interested in, so you don't want to be too broad with the captions. So maybe just including, I would say most five hashtags is probably all you need on TikTok. Obviously, if you've got kind of like a day in the life lifestyle video, you could do, you know, hashtag DITL, day in the life, you know, stuff like that that's quite popular. So yeah, hashtags is definitely important.
Yeah, I think it's something really important to think about, simply because we've seen the conversation recently about TikTok becoming like a search engine in its own right. People are going there to search for content, actively looking for that content. So we might have had this preconception previously about this idea that, right, users are either actively looking for something or they're simply consuming what they're being served, right, on that feed. Whereas now we're seeing that something like a TikTok, which everybody anticipated might be something which people use while they're on the go, or something that they'll use on the downtime just to scroll through to get that dopamine fix. Well, actually, people are going to that actively now to search for relevant content. So I think the point you've made there about making sure you're not using terms and hashtags which are too broad is really, really important moving forward as well, because of the way people are using that platform as well.
Yeah.
So something else I want to touch on then is, we've spoken about kind of professionally generated content and then user generated content as well. And I feel like every speaker so far on this short course has been unanimous in saying that raw, organic, authentic content is probably the way to go, but still professionally generated content does have a place as well. I think Alfie was really saying that, you know, especially when it comes to paid campaigns, you can introduce that more polished looking content if you're thinking about kind of conversions, lower funnel activity, where you really want somebody to make a purchase or some kind of transaction is going to take place, which would make sense, right? So with that being said, what do we need in terms of hardware? Like, you've mentioned an iPhone yourself, but with your team here, we'll have their cameras worth thousands of pounds and lenses worth thousands of pounds to, again, use TikTok content as well for various clients. But what do I need to get started?
Honestly, I would say TikTok, all you need to get started is a phone. You don't want to overthink it. You don't want to be putting, you know, having your production value too high. Obviously, a lot of brands, they do have a budget for these kind of things. So starting off with the phone is all you need. Obviously, you've got TikTok is the best because you can edit in app. So you don't even need anything external to be making a TikTok video. It does help. I've used, and brands obviously I know, which is the app CapCut, which is most popular, I would say, on the app, you know, making templates and creating filters, and a lot of trends people use to do with visual are on CapCut, but it's an external app. It's so easy to use. You know, you don't need any previous knowledge on editing or anything like that to start off, making good content that people will want to see on TikTok. I would say in terms of hardware or software, you don't need any fancy 3D software or editing production or anything like that. But you just need to start off being authentic. And I would say having a plan and having a publishing plan, having those pillars in place of what kind of content you want to make is a better choice and a better start than thinking I need £1,000 camera, I need a tripod, I need professional lighting and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely something that's more accessible to everyone.
Yeah, 100%. And again, goes back to the point we made earlier about kind of the cost benefit of all this and the risk that's associated. If you're first starting out, like you said, from an organic perspective, you can get that reach, you can get those likes, you can get those comments and reach the people you're trying to reach without pumping much money into TikTok as a platform. So the same can be said for the content itself. You don't need to go away and invest in kind of cameras and hardware, lighting and all the rest of it. And the same with software as well. So I know CapCut was still is a massively popular one. But again, like you've just said, TikTok itself has incorporated a lot of those features in its own platform now. So truly, you don't need to do too much outside of that device that you carry around in your pocket every single day. I do think that professionally generated content will have a role as well, of course. It'll serve its purpose. And I'd imagine that, especially if you look at kind of lower down in the funnel where trust is going to be a really important one. And depending on what your product or service is, right, as well, I think that's massively important. Kind of your organization, what are you all about? What is your proposition that you're trying to actually sell here or offer here? And because if we were to talk about kind of professional services, right? So Anna and I were having this discussion about law firms and solicitors, etc., using TikTok as a platform. Now, yes, there is still a role there for that kind of organic, raw, authentic content, which you can shoot on a phone. But if you're thinking about more kind of lower of the funnel activity, if you're looking at ways to target people lower in the funnel, then perhaps having that more polished product and establishing that trust will be more important and help you do that, because you're going to come across as being more professional, perhaps. So definitely, ideas to play around with as well. So something else I wanted to ask you then, Holly, was how can we convey our brand effectively on TikTok?
So starting with your brand, obviously, no matter if you've already got a platform on whatever, or if you just started brand new, important thing to you that you can use to make people to recognize your brand is the DNA. So you want to think about your logo, you want to think about what colors you're using, what text you're using, what products you're offering, what kind of tone and voice you want to have. A lot of the brands that I work with, you've got to, take into consideration the type of tone of voice that they have. So some may be a bit more professional, some may be a bit more friendly. I think if you're catering towards an audience that uses TikTok, you want it to be a bit more friendly and organic. So starting off with the brand DNA is a really good thing to get that audience that you want and the kind of customer that you want. You also might want to think about your typeface, using the character or anything else that makes your brand recognizable. And important to think about your tone of voice. Like I said, that's really your brand's personality. Just think about what you want to say and how you're going to say it. So like I say, you're going to be more professional, you're going to be more friendly, and you're going to be you're going to be humorous, things like that. So starting off with the DNA is the first step into what you want your brand to grow into, I would say.
100%. I think on social, generally, that's a really important one as well, because if you think about that kind of short form content, scrolling through really quickly, if there is a particular brand that's posting frequently throughout the day or throughout the week, you're going to be able to identify that really quickly as a user through those branding cues as well. So really important consideration there. Right, I'm going to put you on the spot now, Holly, like I do with every speaker, and I'm going to say, for those who are looking to get into TikTok for the first time and start to use it for their business, what is a top tip that you have for them? And for those who are already on TikTok and they're looking to optimize their current use of the platform, what's a top tip that you have for them as well?
Right. I would say for optimization, you want to steer away from the content that you want to make. You need to look at your audience more. I would say, like I say, asking is honestly the best way of getting feedback. So to optimize your growth as a brand, I would say be more organic, show your face, create fun-stopping content, make sure that you're using trending audios, thinking of trends, being reactive. And then what were the other questions, sorry?
And then the other one is for those looking to get TikTok for the first time, that haven't used it for their business, what are some of the tips you have for them?
I would say you want to stop. The reason why you might not have been into TikTok already is because you might be thinking, oh, it's a bit daunting, am I going to be able to show what I want? You need to get that idea out of your head. You need to just think, you've got your phone with you, everyone's got a phone or some sort of technology that can get their hands on. So you want to just think, what am I interested in to start off a platform, to start off my brand personality? I think if you're starting, you need to establish what kind of tone of voice and what kind of content you want to make. And you don't have to start off high quality, like I say. You can just start it off that's just being you and just being authentic. I think that's what will grow your confidence on the brand and make you feel like you can start maybe stepping out your comfort zone a bit and being a bit more bold, being a bit more out there with what you're making. So I would say it's a similar process from starting to optimizing. You just, growing your voice and your audience and overall selling the product that you want to, become as a brand.
Right. Thank you very much, Holly. I think that's pretty much everything we were going to cover within this session. So yeah, thank you very much. And to the learners as well, thank you. And I'll see you in the next one.
Thanks a lot, guys.